The Detroit Lions bout against the New York Giants was one that some people would like to forget, especially Lions fans. However, though, when we take a look at the film review, there were quite a couple of diamonds in the roughs that could provide some hope for some fans. And that's what we're going to do. So stay tuned.
What are we? What makes us what we are and what we're going to be? It's grit. It's what we started with last year, guys. Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and 3 toes. I will beat your ass.
Can definitely compete with the big dogs.
10-5 end zone touchdown Detroit Lions.
You guys are unbelievable, man. I'm telling you.
We are driven by Detroit.
Hello, Detroit Lions fans, and welcome on back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike, and as always, we're diving on in. My friends, so today's episode, what we are going to do is we're going to be taking a look at some film review today. We're going to do some film breakdown, some film analysis, and what we're going to be specifically looking for is we're going to look for some diamonds in the rough. So, what am I exactly referring to here? One of the things that I have access to is I have access to the All 22 film library. And the best thing about that is that once you know the games are done and everything, and then once the actual All-22 film review comes out, then I can actually sit down, I can actually take a look at the film from a bird's eye perspective rather than what's just done on the broadcast. And so for me, this gives me a much better ability to kind of go back, rewatch certain plays, watch them over and over again, look for specific players that I'm interested in, trying to figure out who's really showing out, who's not showing out, and really come up with a comprehensive breakdown on what is actually going on within the game. Now, for this particular episode, we're going to be talking about diamonds in the rough, because let's call it for what it is. The game against the Giants was not exactly the greatest showing, and there's been a lot of, I would say, overall negativity about the game's outcome and certainly about some players' performances. So I thought, you know what? Let's take a look at some players that really showed out, and let's take a look at some of their plays, and let's do something to kind of like, give a final little burst or a little bit of pep as we kind of get ready for the next week of training camp. We also get ready for the next preseason game. Kind of something to kind of like, close the chapter on everything with a good note. Having said that, let's take a look at the first play here. So, this first play here, what we're going to see here is this is in essence a third down coverage sack. What you're going to see is the Giants, they're in the gun. Now, what happens is this is when Drew Lock is in at quarterback. He's going to drop back, and his first read, as you can clearly see through his head motion, is towards Malik Neighbors. But what you're going to notice is that Rakestraw, he is an absolutely excellent coverage all over Neighbors. There's no separation whatsoever for Lock to get the throw off, so Lock does not decide to throw. What he then decides to do is he starts drifting to the right. He starts rolling to the right because that's what he likes to do. Well, what you then notice is that he is then sacked on the backside by Isaac Okuu. Hopefully I pronounced that right. But Okuu is actually held off, and he's kind of pushed away from the quarterback. And you see that at the very beginning of the play. The actual left tackle does a very good job of pushing him outside the pocket. But what you're seeing here is just, one, great coverage by Rakestraw, but you're just seeing an absolutely great effort by Okuu to come from behind and make a big sack, which obviously allowed the Giants to, have to punt the ball away, and the Lions got the ball on offense. So again, what you're seeing within that play is a great tandem between the freaking, backside of the defense that's having great coverage. They're making sure the wide receivers are locked down. But at the same time, you're also seeing a guy that, hey, you know what? Nobody really knew much about him prior to this game, but he's showing effort. He's making great moves. He's also making sure that he never gives up on the play, which is totally a Dan Campbell kind of mindset here. So again, this is a play where I saw a lot of things that I really liked. I liked Rakestraw's coverage, and I also liked Okuu's effort, which resulted overall in the sack. So that was play number one that I really liked, that I thought, hey, this is something that we can build on here. Play number two. What we're going to see in this play, again, we're going to see the Giants, they're in a single back pro-right kind of formation. So pretty much what that means is that there's a single back in the backfield, and the tight end is on the right-hand side of the formation. That's where the power is. So, okay, what happens? What you're going to see here, and I'm going to try and slow this down so you guys can kind of see it a little bit better rather than just, it always going at full speed. You're going to see a pulling trap concept by the left guard. However, what you're also going to see is that Brodrick Martin, who is the interior defensive lineman, he's number 99, he is going to absolutely destroy and shed the center block, and then he's going to dive at the running back for a minimal gain. Now, this is a really, really good play by Brodrick Martin because, one, we haven't really heard a whole lot out of Brodrick Martin. So the fact that he's able to make a play like this by shedding one blocker, making a big effort to dive at the back, try and tackle him, get him down for a minimal gain, that is something that we really like to see because, again, there are still a lot of Lions fans that are kind of a little bit, irked at the whole idea that we traded up so much to get frickin' Brodrick Martin, and up until now, we really haven't seen a whole lot out of him. So the fact that Brodrick Martin, even though it is against backups, even though it is a preseason game, the fact that he's making good strides, he's actually making plays, that is a really good sign here. But I want to say this right now, kind of give a little bit of a spoiler alert here. This is not the last time I'm going to include Brodrick Martin in this video. Just an FYI there. Now, let's move on to the next play here. Speaking of Martin, kind of gave you the spoiler, but what we're going to see here is, again, the Giants are in the gun. And what we're going to notice, again, I'm going to play it at full speed, I'm going to play it down at half speed. What you're going to see here is Brodrick Martin is double teamed. I'm going to say this right now. I saw this quite a bit throughout the course of the game when I was doing my film review. Martin is almost always double covered. He's almost always double teamed. But what happens is the center and the left guard, they are both double blocking, or they're double teaming Martin. But what happens is Martin, he just simply fights through them and he overpowers them as he engages the quarterback who has no chance. The quarterback has absolutely no chance, and DeVito goes down. And this is what you call just great strength, great effort by Brodrick Martin. Again, one of the best things that I've heard about Brodrick Martin up until actually watching the film review was just the sheer amount of power this guy had. And it's like, dude, when you're getting double teamed and you can simply just fight and overpower two guys that are trying to stop you and you still make a sack, you're still able to make a play in the backfield, that is a really good job. Because again, you want guys that can absolutely take up more than one blocker, because let's think about this in an actual regular season matchup. If you got a guy that takes two blockers to try and stop him, that's going to free up somebody else, whether it's a blitzing safety, a blitzing linebacker, an edge rusher that's now one-on-one. That opens up opportunities for other players to make plays. And that is something that coaches love. It's like, listen, when it comes to interior defensive linemen, they almost never get the recognition because they're always doing the dirty work. But on plays like this, when they actually also do the dirty work, but they get the result at the end, that is something that is really, really special and something that I wanted to highlight here. Now, speaking of Brodrick Martin, we have another play with Brodrick Martin. In fact, this is actually the same drive, the very next play. Again, what you're going to notice here is, if I recall correctly, I think the Giants are in the gun. They're trying to throw a pass. They're trying to convert the down. And the thing of the matter is that what you're going to notice is the quarterback, he throws the ball, and he's trying to get the ball down the field. We'll take a good look at whose hand shoots up into the air and bats the ball up in the air. It's Brodrick Martin. So not only in the previous play, he had done a good job of showing his ability to fight through a double team, but on this play, he shows excellent awareness by following the drills, following the training of getting his hands up when the ball is released, so that way, the ball is disrupted at the line of scrimmage, which now means, hey, you've in essence kind of got a tip drill, which cornerbacks go through all the damn time. So this is a good application of practice here, and it's a good awareness by Brodrick Martin. Now, what would have been absolutely stellar here is if somebody would have actually come down with an interception, but unfortunately, beggars can't be choosers. You kind of have to go with what you got here. And the fact of the matter is, Brodrick Martin did an excellent job breaking up the pass, and it again caused the Giants, if I recall correctly, to have to punt the ball away. So again, Brodrick Martin did a lot of good things within the course of his game. And again, that's not the only play, that's not the last play we're going to talk about with Brodrick Martin. Let's move on to this next play here. Again, we're kind of going through the course of the game here. In this next particular play, what we're going to see is the Giants are in 11 personnel, which what 11 personnel is in essence is this. Pretty much you've got two wide receivers, you got a tight end, and you got one running back. That's what you've got going on here. And so, okay, the Giants are going to go into a play action formation. And that's what the play is designed to be. Again, what you're going to see here is Akuu, he engages the tight end. Then he moves on to the right tackle. So, okay, tight end engages Akuu. He then moves off and then goes to the right tackle. So then, again, what we see here is DeVito, the quarterback, he starts rolling, he starts drifting to the right. Well, hey, what happens? Akuu recognizes this and he gives pursuit. He applies pressure on DeVito rather than allowing DeVito to roll outside and potentially either one, scramble and pick up yardage, or two, find a wide receiver down the field without necessarily having any sort of, pressure within his face. And what happens? It forces DeVito to have to throw the ball away because he doesn't have an option to scramble. And with pressure in his face, he can't absolutely look down the field and be like, hey, is there somebody that's open? So again, you're finding that these guys, especially Akuu, who up until, like I said, Thursday night, we really hadn't heard much out of him, they're doing things that are really, really good, and they're really starting to catch on, and they're starting to become names that, hey, they might just make the roster. Maybe if not the final 53-man roster, they might actually make it as a practice squad player with a chance to get called up. Moving right along here, we're going to move into, hold on here, I just want to make sure how many plays I got left. I got 2 more plays to go through. So again, trying to give you guys as comprehensive of a film review as I possibly can here. Moving on right along, again, this next play we've got, the Giants are in the gun. And this is a draw play, it's a draw concept. The Giants do actually a pretty good job of setting up a lane for the running back. And I'm actually going to do a still frame so that way you guys can see exactly what I'm talking about here after I've gone through the actual play itself. But what you're going to notice is, okay, there's a good lane that's set up for the running back to follow. But again, like I said, Brodrick Martin shows a great bout of strength when he one-arm tackles the back. Because what happens is the back kind of follows the hole, but Brodrick Martin, he just literally puts out his right arm, and he just, in essence, kind of brings him down to the ground with his body weight and his one arm. So again, what you're noticing here is that even when Brodrick Martin is engaged with a blocker, he has more than enough strength to reach out, get a hold of somebody, and bring them down to the ground, even if he is engaged with a blocker. That's good because that right there shows progression. That is something that not a lot of young players can, in essence, do. That is something that you expect to see from guys like, an Aaron Donald, an Ndamukong Suh, guys that are they're like all pros, they're really good at what they do. The fact that Brodrick Martin was able to do that, again, it is a preseason game. It is against backups. I understand that. It's still a good showing. It's still a good job by Brodrick Martin. And again, I want to give praise for players that are absolutely doing a good job, especially in the case with Brodrick Martin, because again, we really haven't heard a whole lot out of him. But within this course of this film review, I've had at least 4 different plays where it's like, hey, Brodrick Martin actually had a pretty damn good game on Thursday night. But again, there's one more play that we need to look at here. So, again, what we're going to see here is another gun play by the Giants, and this is another draw concept. It's another draw play. Now, what happens here is that the running back, he initially kind of gets stopped at the line of scrimmage. He really can't go anywhere. So what he tries to do is he tries to bounce it outside. Well, what he does is he evades the first tackler. But the next guy he comes up against, Akuu, he can't get away from him. Akuu does an absolutely great job of first shedding the tight end that's on the edge, trying to keep him from getting away, trying to keep him from the running back, pardon me. But once he sheds the tight end very quickly, he just wraps up the running back, and the running back either, I think, got maybe 1 yard or no gain at all. So again, what you're seeing here is that for Brodrick Martin, he's doing a great job on his end on actually, showing that he can play. But when it comes to Akuu, he's actually showing that, hey, don't overlook me just because, I'm an undrafted free agent or whatever else. This guy made several plays over the course of the game, and it was whether it was the sack, whether it was his ability to apply pressure, whether it was his ability to shed blocks and make tackles in the backfield. You're seeing that there are guys that weren't necessarily talked about over the course of the game because let's call it for what it is here. Most of the attention for the game was on guys like Hendon Hooker and Nate Sudfeld, was also on Rakestraw and also on, Arnold and their ability to, hold down the fort against the wide receivers of the Giants. And there were a couple of other people. But when it comes to guys like Martin and Akuu, it's not something that was necessarily brought up a whole lot. Akuu definitely got some mention because of the fact that he got a sack, but it's like nobody was really talking about Brodrick Martin. But it's like when you actually take a look at the film review, Brodrick Martin actually did a pretty damn good job. He actually had a pretty good game on Thursday night. So for me, it's like, you know what? One of the things I love to do when I do these film reviews is I'm like, okay, who's not necessarily getting any sort of attention? Who's not necessarily getting any sort of recognition here? And that's why I love doing film review, because it's like, hey, this player actually did something really, really good. They deserve to get some recognition. They deserve to be shown that, hey, they're doing a good job, and let's give them a break. If you know, in the past they've been getting, kind of hounded a little bit, as is the case with Brodrick Martin, or as is the case with Akuu. Hey, not only did this guy do a really good job on this play, but he did a really good job on a couple of other plays. Let's see if this guy can actually be something really special. Let's see if this guy can actually make the roster. Let's keep giving him more chances. So again, that's why I really like doing film review, because it really gives me an opportunity to show you guys what I'm seeing, so then that way you guys can kind of look for other stuff when we get to the other games or practice reports, whatever the case might be. But having said that, I figured I was going to make a really quick episode to start the day, because if I recall correctly, today is the 11th. Yes, today is the 11th. We're going to have our first we're going to have our next training camp practice probably coming out later today, which means observations, what's going on, who's doing what, so on and so forth. But until that time, I just want to say thank you all for watching yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, I highly encourage y'all to watch the next episode. Also encourage y'all to do one of these three things: like, comment, and subscribe. If by chance you subscribed in the past and you forgot to do so at the time, or you just subscribed and you not had a chance to do so, again, I want to highly encourage y'all to subscribe, but I also want to encourage y'all, make sure you hit that bell notification icon at the bottom as well, so that way you guys never miss any more content that I push out. Also want to encourage y'all to share the content with your Lions friends and family members. Share here on YouTube, share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook, share it anywhere and everywhere you can with everybody and anybody that you can. The more we can share it, the greater the channel grows, the greater the channel spreads. And with that being said, I hope everybody enjoyed the content. I hope y'all enjoyed the film review. I hope y'all got something in your life that makes you happy, makes you smile. God bless, and until the next time we meet, I will see you all later on.